Welcome to this session. This is the 153 season. This is a theme or a term I'm trying to coin to help leaders, business owners, pastors, anybody in a position of leadership to understand when you take your diligence, you meet it with obedience and then faith, and it aligns with God's purpose. It presents his power. An analogy or a good example is, you ever recall a time you needed to get a closet door open at maybe school, and you have a janitor who has, like, he's the master key man and has this full roll of keys, and he has to figure out, which one, goes in. Sometimes he has to go through a level of diligence of making sure he marks all those, or maybe trying the key until he can find the last one that works. And finally, the key that is meant for that lock opens the door, and then you're able to enter into what's in that room. And so that simple analogy is just how, I want to encourage leaders, business owners and whatnot to look at their resources that God has positioned them, and their strengths and their craft, their specialties, to steward and do all you know to do. That's what diligence is. There's a scripture I want to share, Proverbs 21:31. The horse is made ready for the day of battle, but victory rests in the Lord. So this, to me, is where the key of diligence meets the keyhole for opportunity to open the door into God's purpose. And inside that door, in that room, is the power to unlock what God has for you. And so 153 season is aligning with God's timing. And there's a story in the Bible that reflects that in John 21, where after Jesus had already died and resurrected, and he's now introducing himself as the resurrected King, the resurrected Christ, back to the disciples who he walked with for 3 years. And in that story, Peter, who used to be Simon, but now Peter, and some of the disciples, they are, in a area of their life where they just walked with the Messiah for 3 years, and then saw or heard about his death, and they're in a limbo season of not knowing if he resurrected, what's going on. And it seems to be that they're going back to their old ways, and they're back on the boat, reflecting when Jesus first met Peter on the boat. Kind of a similar story, reflecting that time and that era. But now this is later, after Jesus resurrected, first introducing himself to Peter and the fishing crew. But they're out fishing all night again, back to their trades, back to their work, back to the same systems that they used to know. And guess what? They weren't catching anything. They were out there fishing all night, fishing all day, had a couple boats, and they weren't arriving at catching anything. It was a bad day. And as a tradesman, as a builder myself, I empathize with understanding what it's like to fish all day and not catch anything. And there is a part in there where a voice came from the shore, who is, as we know, Jesus. But from their perspective, there was somebody shouting, "Hey, throw to the right side of the boat." And can you imagine their perspective, or their position of hearing a voice that is telling them, "Hey, I know you guys fished all day in that area, in that spot, but even though where you are and you're not catching any fish, just slightly put the net on the other side of the boat." Can you imagine, like, the pride that could kick in, or the almost disgust of, "Hey man, we've been out here all day sweating, my arms are hurt, I'm sore, and you really think like we haven't tried these areas?" And so instead of letting those, feelings or emotions kick to the surface, I think what happened, and what I want to believe what happened, and what proved to happen, especially with Peter, is I believed they had a relationship long enough with Jesus that they recognized that voice. They may not have recognized his identity immediately because they were about about 100 yards out, but they did recognize that voice, that accent, that authority, and they knew who it was, and in the sense of that. And so they trusted, and they took the net and they threw it on the other side, to the right side of the boat. And why I share this is the diligence was there. They were out there fishing. They're pros at this. This is their craft. They know the seas. They know the times to go out, the areas to go out, the seasons to go out, on what nets to throw. They understand how to catch fish. It's their trade. And so it's rare you hear someone or a team that goes out professionally and just does not succeed at all, zero fish. And it's just one of those days. And it happens, as a tradesman in the builder world, there's days where your schedule just gets demolished and people call out sick, materials don't show up, things get broken, and you're just in a mess when it comes to schedule. And it feels like one of those days where you're just calling it one and you're ready to go home. You start packing up your tools and you're done. And this is where the empathy kicks in for me personally with Peter and the crew, to really almost pull out your gear again and throw it to the other side, where you're already set up on one side of the job site. Now you got to move on to the other side of the job site, where we understand we've been out here all day. So it can feel like an impossible reach to witness a miracle, but the voice they understood and trusted and had faith. So where these connect dots is the diligence was there. They were working all day. They did everything they knew to do. Prepare the horse for battle, but victory is of the Lord. So the diligence was there. They did everything to prepare the horse for battle on that boat that day. Now, where that aligns with obedience is when they listen to the voice of God through Jesus on the shore, 100 yards out, and trusting that voice that they heard by the relationship that they have. They move now into obedience and moved to the other side of the boat, the right side. That was the act of obedience, and threw the net. Now, what's really cool is that throw the actual net out is just straight faith, because at that point, you're basically going against all your physical, mental knowledge of an intellect of how the waters work and what you've done that day. So now you're stepping out of faith, knowing that there are no fish there in the sense of the physical world. Like, we've done our diligence. There's nothing there. And then they toss the net. And then guess what happens? If you know the story, if you don't, they caught a multitude of fish. There were so many fish that it stretched the net to its full capacity, and it was so full, but yet did not break. And that's where your obedience and faith turn into aligning with God's purpose and power. Because the timing, can you imagine the backstory of those fish? They weren't there. And yes, we could think they magically appeared, but what I want to think is those fish, that school of fish, was out to sea. And this is probably a comical way of looking at it, but they knew Jesus was at shore and they probably wanted to come say hello. No, they started coming from whatever journey they were, and they were coming just as it aligned. And the moment that they tossed the net, the fish, the school of fish, was exactly right where they needed to be. So there's always a backstory movement of God's power and purpose moving like those fish and getting close to your divine timing of taking that key and putting it in the lock to open that door. But our job is to look for that key, do our diligence, do all we know to do. And the lock and the door is already set, and the alignment's happening for purpose and power. I want to share a quick insert from the book of these two key items: the power of diligence and obedience. Diligence is preparation, showing up daily, and working with excellence, to giving all you have. Now, also, you got to honor time. You got to honor your body. You have to not burn yourself out. But if you have an 8-hour day, you got to take advantage of that work hour day, not going scrolling on social medias when you should be taking care of tasks, prioritizing your tasks and knocking them out to the best of your ability with the energy you have, taking the breaks that you are provided, lunches or whatever it is. As a business owner, you have to take time to have your breaks to produce excellence in your energy. So honoring your time as well, not to run yourself and burn yourself out, because that's not stewarding, that's not being diligent. Diligent is doing all you know to do, but within the honor of your time. Now, obedience is listening for divine instruction, even sometimes when it doesn't make sense, and acting on it. That's where the faith kicks in. And success in God's written way of looking at it comes when both of those align. That's when God can actually move with his purpose and power. You see, you can have all the tools and resources. I have many tools on job sites, top of the line, very well dressed, very well looking. I got the top brands, everything that could perform at the highest level of excellence, and very well decorated. You come on our job sites, you'll see that I'm a fan of the best. Excellence to the top degree. I know how to use all of these. I'm a craftsman. I can go out there and I could perform at high level of efficiencies, very well crafted items put together, top blades. I mean, we know very well how to do our job. But if we have all these tools, we have the job site, the materials, everything's on site. But if we do not have power, all of that's irrelevant. Who cares how you're dressed? Who cares how the horse looks if he has a broken leg and can't even get to battle? So the importance of diligence and obedience. But here's the key. Victory is of the Lord. So to summarize, do all you know to do, but let God do the rest. There is a point where you have to let go and let God. You have to let go and say, okay, God, I did everything I know to do today. It's my time to cut the clock. I'm not Elon Musk. I'm not going to work 18, 20 hours a day. I trust you in my rest period. Now I did everything I can do. I'm checking out, going home, going to balance with family and rest and re-energize and spend time with God. And I'm going to allow that time for God to move, to let the fish come swimming in to align with my diligence and obedience and faith for his purpose and power to move forward. So here is the 153 season defined. It's a season where your hard work aligns with God's purpose and precise provision. I'm going to say that again. The 153 season is defined like this. A season where your hard work aligns with God's purpose and precise provision. You see, the number 153 is very interesting. It's the number revealed to the exact number of fish that made it back to shore. I thought this was very interesting. And this is what I call the 153 season, because there are seasons in our lives that, like a roller coaster, God's going to refine, bring you down, bring you up, and go through these seasons of refinement, sanctification, and growth. Just like you build a muscle, you got to get in there and push those weights, and for a muscle to grow and kind of go through some of those stress zones. But in the 153 season, this is a different side of the token. This is where you can feel the stretch of abundance, but not more than you can handle. You see, the net was so filled, but it did not break. I think that is like brilliantly displayed in God's scripture, understanding that even on the other side of the token, where you're going through maybe the fall or adversity or challenges, he promises in scripture he won't give you more than you can handle. I think it's on the other side with abundance as well, when you're following, you're being diligent, you're being obedient and following faith and trusting God's purpose and power. I truly believe that abundance is also measured at not giving you more than you can handle. And so it became a season where fruit was being produced, fruit of the Spirit, fruit in blessings of resources, things that we were ready because of being diligent. We are proven to be stewards. And so when God blesses with resources, these 153 fish that made it back to shore, I thought it was so cool that they counted the fish. And 153 to me is so specific and precise because it's not even rounded up. You know, like when you get some change and you count it, it's 97 cents. Sometimes you're like, man, I almost got $1, you know, or, you know, we tend to round things up in the fives or to, up to the zeros, but to 193, that odd number was just so precise. It was letting them know that was the capacity of their net. And it's all good. That's just what it was. And it's something we as business owners, as leaders, even as parents, can centralize and understand that our plateau or our mountaintop high doesn't have to be Mount Everest. There is a place or a landing place in these mountain climbing. Most business owners and leaders want to grow and do these things, but there's a place and a plateau of what you can handle in your season, and understanding that in that season, it's okay to be content, not complacent, but content. Contentment is the key of understanding. That's the place where arrival or success to me is where you find the ultimate joy, the ultimate contentment in the layer or plateau that you're in, and not complacent, but also not eager to chase up to a further height that is not even required of you. And that's what the 153 season is. It wasn't random. It reflects is intentional, and it was an abundance without excess. My favorite part of this story, that John chapter 21, is Peter and his heart. Oh my gosh. You see, success was not the goal for him. The fish was not the point. Relationship was. You see, immediately when Peter heard and recognized the accent, the authority of the voice that was coming from shore, he knew who it was. He responded so fast. He had his gear off, his clothes off, his garment off, because they were fishing, they're working. Out of respect, he threw it back on, jumped in the water, and swam 100 yards to Jesus. While this was happening, the workers, the other disciples on the boat, they were operating out of faith and through. So the team was at work. The team trusted. They knew Peter. When Peter jumped in the water, like, we know who that is. And so they, out of faith, they put the net on the other side, and they were catching fish. But Peter wasn't even on the boat. He was swimming to Jesus, because he knew, wait a minute, he's alive. And that relationship took over even this idea of catching fish. Like, who cares about the fish? And so he started swimming towards Jesus. And so what I love about this, don't count the fish and forget the fishermen. You see, Jesus is the whole point. Like, faith, without that relationship and understanding why all this is even operating, you can kind of miss the whole point in this. So my message to CEOs, to senior pastors, to the head lead guys in any position, or women in any position, when you're leading something, to have that posture and heart to always be ready to chase the fisherman himself, Jesus. He is the centerpiece and the reason. And what was really unique and cool about this was when they did bring the fish in, they came and Jesus prepared a fire to eat and dine with them and have breakfast with them and sit and just break bread, is what I call it. How cool is that? That I believe that when God does pour this abundance in your life in these seasons, there are seasons, they don't always come, but when they do, understanding that you can celebrate your win with Jesus. Sit down, have breakfast, laugh, enjoy being with him. And that is the key to all of this in the 153 season, is knowing that when God's ready to plug you into the power, he's also willing to celebrate the wins with you. And I'll end with this. This is a question I would like to leave you with. Think about what you are doing to prepare the rain. So what I mean by that is, imagine two farmers, and they're both wanting their crop to grow. And one is praying, and the other one's praying, hey, I need rain, I need rain. But only one actually prepared the field, actually went out there, did everything that a farmer would do with the ground, planting seeds, continuing taking out the weeds. And the other guy just sat and thought and believed he had faith by praying. So when the rain came, who do you think got the crop? Who do you think produced the fruit? It was the one that did the work, to put in the diligence and let diligence align with God. And That's my question for you today, and I want to leave you with, what are you doing to prepare for the rain? And then also, maybe you are in a season of abundance. I would ask this: do you recognize the source behind your success? And I would love to leave you with those two challenges to really meditate and think about, and what you can do next into preparing the rain, or jumping off the boat to swim 100 yards to Jesus and sit with him and have breakfast. So remember, do all you know to do and let God do the rest. Prepare your net, listen for direction, and be ready for your 153 season.